More than 1.7 million illegal immigrants were detained at the southern border during the 2021 fiscal year, and that ended in September. Now that, according to new Custom and Border Protection data released last week, that tops the previous high of 1.64 million detained in 2000 and eclipses the 540,000 annual average between 2012 and 2020. Now, we talked about this last week with the former Secretary of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. But if that's not bad enough, more immigrants are on their way. CBN News has reported witnessing firsthand a wave of Haitians headed to the U.S., even bigger than the 15,000 plus that we've seen in recent weeks. Joining me now to talk about this and more, freelance war correspondent Chuck Holton. Chuck, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hi, Tony. It's good to see you.
So tell us what you've seen. They're making their way to the southern border.
Oh, they are. The numbers coming through, you have to understand when Haitians leave Haiti, what they do is go through South America and then come up through Colombia and walk through the Darien Gap between Colombia and Panama into Panama and then make their way north. And so the Panama is kind of a choke point for these extracontinental migrants, not just Haitians, but people from all over the globe that are coming through. And it's a good place to count them. So what we're seeing in Haiti is the numbers continuing to rise to the point where it's just crushing that small country and their ability to even take care of these people. They're getting to the point now where they have something like 600 to 1,000 a day coming through. That's an annual number. What it used to be in the thousands per year, and now we're seeing something like 25 to 30,000 a month.
Now, Chuck, as you've been there and you've witnessed this and you've talked to those there on the ground, what is propelling them to come to the southern border of the United States?
That's a really good question, because the vast majority, actually, virtually all of the people that I spoke with coming through the border, we've been following this for months now. They did not leave Haiti yesterday. They did not leave Cuba yesterday. These people have been in other countries. They left Haiti and Cuba because of the persecution, the war, whatever, and they went to other countries in Latin America where they've been making a living for something like 4 or 5 years. And they're only now deciding to come to the United States because Joe Biden is president and they know they can get in. So they are 100% economic migrants. The left likes to try to make the case that these are migrants that are fleeing war and oppression. Well, they're not, because they have to cross through sometimes 9 or 10 other countries that are not facing war and oppression, that are not oppressing them, that are not, killing them or anything like that. And in many cases, most cases, in fact, they've been working and making a living for years in places like Chile and Ecuador and Brazil before they decided to come to the United States. And they're only now coming because they know the southern border is open.
So the open border is attracting those migrants that are coming here, and the crisis has been created because of the open border policy.
Absolutely. This is a 100% man-made crisis, and it's been made by the Biden administration opening the border. They've had more than 19,000 children dragged through the Darien Gap. That's a 6-day walk with no food. It's very dangerous. Many people die along the way. Probably about 1 in 10 die. And 19,000 children have been counted coming through this year so far. And that's specifically because U.S. foreign policy now includes that if you show up at our southern border with a child, you're allowed to come right in. You don't go to detention. You're just let right into the country. And so children are being used as a ticket to get into the United States. And it's causing a lot of suffering and death of those children along the way.
Doesn't sound too compassionate to me. Talking about counting, last week we had on the program the former Secretary of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. He was talking about, mixed in with these migrants are those who get across, who are not detained and have, they have ill purposes. They come here to do harm to America. Panamanian authorities say that they've actually detected and been able to identify Al-Qaeda suspects in the numbers passing through their country. Tell us about that.
That's right. 52 so far this year have come up on a terror watch list that they are in some way affiliated with Al-Qaeda. And that's now, this is not actually Panamanian authorities catching these guys. This is American authorities in Panama, because the United States Border Patrol has a station in Panama. And as these migrants come through, like I said, it's a choke point. The Pan American Highway picks up on the north side of the Darien Gap in Panama and goes right up to the United States. So there is a place, for example, where there's a huge lake and the Pan American Highway goes right across the middle of the lake. There's not really any easy way around that. And so what happens is the U.S. Border Patrol agents in Panama go to these camps where the migrants are, and they do biometric testing on the migrants, on every one of them. And in that way, they're able to pick up these people who are on terror watch list. But the really scary thing is that so many of these people are not on any list at all. They come in, they don't have a passport, or they have it, but they hide it. And they could say that they're from any country at all. We don't know what country they're from. We don't know what their intentions are at all. And we're talking about people from Afghanistan and Syria and Bangladesh and Indonesia and Somalia and all over Africa. And again, the vast majority, 99% of these people are economic migrants, but it would be very, very easy for people to come in who don't have any biometric history floating around out there because they grew up in Syria, for example, with ill intent, and get into the United States.
Fascinating. It's just I'm just curious as to why we're not hearing about that. If this is U.S. agencies that are detaining or identifying these individuals, why that's not being reported here in the United States.
They're not. They are being specifically told that they cannot share that information. They cannot talk about that information. And that's because the Biden administration does not want that information getting out. During the Trump administration, it was much more common to go down there. And I mean, just to give you an example, I could go down there during the Trump administration and walk up to the Border Patrol guy and say, hey, what are you guys seeing down here? And he would tell me everything.
Hey, Chuck, we're going to have to, we're up against a break. We're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. Fascinating information. We'll be in touch.